All right, so you can see that we're starting the transformation section here. So we're just going to go through and define transformation at the top. Today we're going to focus on reflection, and I'll break this up into a couple of videos just so that it's not a really long video, because we have 3 different kinds of reflections that we're going to take a look at. I also have another notes video that I'll kind of splice in here so you can see. I think it's a very good idea to keep kind of the rules for each type of transformation on a separate sheet of paper, so it's almost kind of like a little cheat sheet that you can go back to very easily instead of having to look through pages of notes to find those rules. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So on this one, it says transformation, and an operation that maps an original figure called the pre-image. So pre-image, so that's like your original image that you're going to graph, onto a new figure called the image. So the original image is pre-image, like the first image, and then the second one is just called the image. Transformations can change the size, the position, and the orientation. Orientation. There we go. Of a figure. So size, that has to do with dilating, like making a shape larger or smaller. Position, that has to do with translations, where we, take a shape and we just scooch it either from side to side or up or down. So that's changing its position. And then orientation, that actually has to do with reflection or rotation, because we're literally changing the way it's oriented. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at reflection. So these are just bullet points on the basic ideas of reflection. So a really easy way to remember reflection is the word flip. And think of a mirror reflection. When you look in the mirror, you're still looking at yourself, but a mirror image is backwards, so you're flipping it around. Same thing when we reflect an image or reflect a figure. And we reflect that over a line called the line of reflection. The line of reflection. Which in this case, if we're looking at this one, here's the line of reflection right here in the middle. So that is the line that we're kind of going back and forth between. So each point and its image are the same distance from the line of reflection. So if we could go through over here and we could measure how far away C was from this line, C prime, which is just the one with the little tick mark on it, would be the same distance. If we could measure how far B away was, or how far B was away from the line, then B prime would be the same distance. Same thing with A. So they would be the exact same distance away from that line. All right, so we have possible lines of reflection. So there's 3 types of reflections we can do. We can do over the x-axis or y-axis. So these are fairly similar rules when you go through and do it. A vertical or horizontal line, which is x equals a number or y equals a number. So we'll look at those ones. And then diagonal lines, which is y equals x or y equals negative x. So there's definitely 3 options here. That's why I was going to split this up into 3 videos. So I'll just do part 1, part 2, and part 3. So this is part 1. So part 1, we're going to go through and do the first 4 questions. And then part 2, I'll do the next 4 questions, so 5 through 8, because those ones are flipping over a line. They're a little different. And then the last video I'll do over a diagonal line. So back up just so there's not lines down there. Back up. Okay, so let's go ahead and focus in on these ones. So first, there's a couple of things you need to do on these to get full credit. So it says graph and label each figure and its image under the given reflection. So it's going to give you a figure. So this one's triangle ABC. It gives you the points to graph. So you do need to graph that. Then it tells you what you're going to be reflecting over. And I suggest very heavily that we put the line of reflection in so we know what we're reflecting over. And then the last piece is give the new coordinates. They're always going to ask you for what the end coordinates are. So we have a couple of things we have to do in here to get full credit. So let's go through and we're going to graph each one. So A, I'm going to go left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 2. So there is A. okay. And then B, so I have right 4 up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So there's B. And then C, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right and then up 1. So there's C. So now I'm going to connect this. And I already knew it said triangle, so hopefully we all kind of acknowledged that. When I read that earlier, we're going to have a 3-sided figure, a triangle. Some of them are, quite a few of them are going to be 4-sided, but every once in a while they throw a triangle in, so just one less piece to deal with. The line of reflection, I will make that yellow, I guess. Why is it not letting me select yellow? There we go. So the line of reflection in this case is the x-axis, so I'm just going to draw a yellow line there so we can see. That's my line of reflection. I don't really need to put the arrows on the end. So what we want to do is figure out how far away. Let's see if I can maybe do orange on this one. I was hoping I could keep that orange, but all right. So with this one, because they're the same distance away, all right, with this one, since they're the same distance away, I'm just going to take a look and say how far away is A from the line of reflection. So, and I know I didn't draw that blue line terribly nicely, so let me kind of fix that a little so you can see it a little bit better here. So I'm going to try to draw that a little nicer. Oh, I did not want a straight line there. What is it doing? Diagonal line. Keeps doing that. Okay, that's a little better. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll do green for counting so I don't have to find that orange every time. So this one I can see it's 2 away from the line of reflection. So I want to go to the line of reflection and flip it over and go 2 away on the other side. So here's my new A, we call that A prime. And then we'll just find the coordinates of that one. So I'm going left 4 and down 2. Left 4, down 2. All right, so my next one, if I look at B, I am all the way up to 7 on that one. So I'm going to go all the way down to 7 for this one, and I'm going to go B prime. So now, to find my point, I'm going to go right 4 and down 7. So right 4, down 7. And the very last one here, C, is only 1 away from the line, so it's only going to be 1 away on the other side. So I have C prime right here, and that's going to be right 5, down 1, right 5, down 1. I'm going to rewrite that. Right 5, down 1. And then I can go ahead and connect these so that you can see it is in fact the exact same triangle. We just reflected it over that line. So if we could fold this paper on top of this yellow line here, then we would definitely see that the points would match right up. So one thing I do like to write on here is I like to compare so that you can see what the rule is, so that you could do this without a graph. So if I write these really quick, and I'm going to write them kind of stacked on top of each other. B and B prime, 4 and 7, 4 and negative 7, and then C and C prime. So I had 5 and 1, and then 5 and negative 1. All right, I'm going to go back. I forgot to put a negative here on that 2 by A, so if you see that, I just added that. All right, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight a little bit, and I'm going to show you. So I'm highlighting on from A to A, the x's didn't change. It's negative 4 to negative 4. And on B, we have 4 to 4 for the x's, and on C, we have 5 to 5. So those didn't change at all. But what did change were the y's. So I went from positive 2 to negative 2, positive 7. Oh, darn it, I just noticed I forgot the negative there too. I must have hit back. Oh, still got the highlighter on. There we go. So there should be a negative there. That was just an oops. And then we went from 1 to negative 1. So I can see that change happening. So the rule here, if I'm reflecting, forgot to change it to pen, reflecting x-axis, is that we would have x, y, if I'm given a coordinate, I'm not going to change the X at all, but what I am going to do is change the sign on the Y. So don't let this make you think that you're always going from positive to negative. It depends on where you started. We started in the top and moved to the bottom, so we went from positive to negative. But if we were to have started in the bottom, we would have started with negative and moved up to positive. So just be careful on that this doesn't always mean you're going from positive to negative. It just means that you're switching signs. So I'm hoping that you can see that these pieces, I switched to highlighter the way I meant to, these are the ones that changed. But these did not change at all. They stayed exactly the same as they were when we first started. Okay. All right, I'm going to unhighlight just so there's not quite so much highlighting. All right, go back to pen. Okay, so let's go to number 2. And we'll go back. I will throw in a notes page. And I should be able to link it to the video so that there's an easy way to keep all of this separate. If you don't have that notes page, you could always just write it on a separate sheet of paper and just keep that paper handy, because that will be much more useful than trying to go back through pages and pages and notes. All right, so for this next one, we have a rectangle and it's PQR. So we're going to go through and graph each one of these pieces here. So I'll go in blue here first. So P, we're going to go to the right one and up 2. And then Q, we're going to go right 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's Q. And then that was Q, R. So I'm going to go all the way to the side for 8 and then up 1, 2, 3. It helps to know that these are 8 wide in any direction. And then for S, we're going to go to 7 and just stay there because it's 7 and 0. So here is my rectangle. That's my pre-image. And now I'm going to go through and I'm going to reflect over the y-axis. So I need to make sure that I note what I'm reflecting over. So I'm reflecting over the y-axis there that I made in yellow. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to count how far away we are from the line of reflection. So if I look at P, I'm only 1 away. So I'm going to go 1 away on that side. And that's my new P prime. And if I go for the coordinate on that one, I'm going to go left 1, up 2. So left 1, up 2. All right, next one. So if I go to Q, I'm 2 away on Q, so I'm going to go 2 away this direction. So there's Q. I forgot to put my little prime there. So Q prime. And if I'm looking at the coordinate, I'm going to go left 2, up 5. So left 2, up 5. And then I'm going to go R. So with R, I'm 8 away because I was as far away as I could get. So I'm going to do that same thing over here. So I'm going to end up with R all the way over here. So I'm going to go -8 and then +3. -8, +3. And last one here. So 7, or S, that's 7 away, right? And then so I'm going to go 7 away over here and place S. S prime. So with that one, I'm just going straight over -7 to the left and 0. All right, so we have our new rectangle. And again, we can see it's the exact same rectangle. Nothing's changed except it's literally flipped over that line. So it's in kind of that opposite orientation that it was when it started. So now let's look at this one. Since this is over the x-axis, it's a slightly different rule. It's very close, but it's slightly different. So if I look at these pieces, I'll go back to so P, we have 1 and 2. P prime was -1 and 2. Q was 2 and 5. Q prime was -2 and 5. And I'm only going to look at 3 of these points. We can highlight the last one. I just don't have a whole lot of room, so I can write the rule down there. So I'll write S right underneath here. So it was 7 and 0. All right. So now if I go to my highlighter, so the last time when I highlighted in yellow, we were highlighting the X's because they didn't change. Well, now if we look at the X's, they have changed. Why did that get so much bigger there? The x's have changed a little bit here, right? So I went from +1 to -1, +2 to -2, +8 to -8, and then -7 to +7. What didn't change this time were the y's. Back and make that just a little bit bigger because now it's taking a little too long to highlight. So I had 2 to 2 on P, 5 to 5 on Q, 3 to 3 on R, and then 0 to 0 on S. So for this one, if I'm reflecting, did that same thing on the last one, reflecting over the y-axis, I'm just going to say y-axis instead of over, save a little space here. I'm going to have an xy, and that's going to go. So what doesn't change this time is the y. The x changes signs, though. So all of the x's flipped signs on us, right? So those two rules are very, very helpful. And again, we can keep those on that separate notes page so that it's very easy to go through and reference. All right, so now that we've learned this, the next two, I don't know why it reset us. The next two should be a little bit easier to go through because we're not going to go through quite as much. Oh, I got rid of a whole bunch of stuff there. I don't know why I did that. All right. So for number 3, we're going to go through and graph our trapezoid. Again, if you don't necessarily know what these shapes are, that's okay. But if you do have an idea of what a trapezoid looks like, that's a little better so that you know that you're graphing the correct shape. Or number 4, if you don't know what a rhombus is. Again, you'll get to see it when you graph it, but it is a little convenient if you already know what it looks like. All right, so let's go through and graph this one first. So F is left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then down 2, 1, 2. So there's F, and then G, so that's left 2, down 2. H, that's, we're going to go straight down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because since we're on the 0, we don't go right or left, we just go straight down. And then for that I, we're going to go all the way to the left side and then down 6. All right, so here is our trapezoid, and this is what all trapezoids basically look like. You can have ones that look a little different, so even something like that is still considered a trapezoid. But basically you have a top and a bottom that are different sizes, but it's a 4-sided figure just like this. All right, so let's go ahead and put our line of reflection in. So our line of reflection is the y-axis. So we're focusing on that y-axis again, the one we just did on number 2. So we're going to do that same thing, and we're going to go through and figure out where everything is. Now, using that rule that we just came up with on the last one, I could actually go through and answer the coordinates just with the rule. So I know that y is going to stay the same, but x is going to change. So I could go through and say, well, then f prime, if I'm looking at f, it's going to stay -2 for y, but 5 is going to go to +5. And G, -2 is going to stay for y, but it's going to go to +2 for x. For H, nothing actually is going to change because the -6 would stay the same, and 0 can't flip from negative to positive, and we'll see that in a moment when we actually look at the graph. And then for I, -6 would stay the same, but 8's going to switch to positive. So this is part of the answer that I can already do without even having to graph. But remember, the graph is part of the points on this one. So we do need to still go through and do that. I got rid of G. Maybe I didn't put it there. All right, so let's go through and we're going to count just so that we can see that same process. So if I'm looking at F, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from the line of reflection. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there is my point F. And again, if I look at the coordinate, I'm going to go to the right 5 and down 2, which is exactly what we said we were going to do when we use that rule. And that's F prime. All right, and now G, if I just keep going, here I have 2, so I'm going to go 2, and that'll be right here, so G prime. So again, I go right 2, down 2, which is exactly what we said was going to happen. And then we have I, or we'll do H first, I guess, since it's here. So H is right on the line of reflection. So think of this kind of like a hinge. It's actually going to stay the same. H and H prime are the exact same point. That's the kind of pivot point there. So they can't change. I is all the way over 8 points away. So it's going to be all the way to the right 8 points away from the line of reflection. So this is I prime. So if I connect these, we can see it's the same trapezoid, just flipped over that line. And again, for I, I'd go positive 8, negative 6, which is exactly what we said was going to happen. All right, one more here, and then this video will be over. Okay, so we're going to go through and do each piece here. So let's graph these ones. So I have W. I'm going to go left 2 and down 1, 2, 3, 4. And that'll be W. And this is a rhombus. And if you don't know a rhombus shape, it's a diamond. And we'll see that here in just a moment. So X is positive 1, negative 2. So that was X. Y is positive 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's Y. And the last piece here is Z. So that's positive 1, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's Z, like that. So now you can see our cute little diamond shape that we end up with here. All right, and then we are going to reflect over the x-axis. So that's this line here. So there we go. That's not perfectly on the x-axis, but that's probably okay. Well, now I just went a little below it, but we're going to pretend like that's right on the x-axis there. So again, I can go through and use that rule. So this was from number 1 when we did the rule for flipping over the x-axis. So I can say, well, I know that x is going to stay the same this time, but y is going to change signs. So if I go through each one of these, W is going to stay negative 2, but negative 4 is going to go to positive 4. X, it's going to stay positive 1, but it's going to go to positive 2. And then we're going to go 4 and 4 for Y. Z, I'm going to leave 1 alone, but 6 is going to change to positive. So now let's confirm that on the graph here. So we have W. We were 4 away from the line of reflection. So now we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 away. We're going to put our point here. So that's now W prime. So again, if I were to graph this, I'd go negative 2 up 4, which again is exactly what we said was going to happen. All right, next one. So if I go X, X is 2 away. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and that'll be my new point here. So that's X prime. And if I were to map this, I'd go positive 1 to the right, positive 2 up, which is exactly what we said was going to happen. All right, next one. Y is 4 away from the line. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and put my point Y. All right. And again, positive 4, which is exactly what we said was going to happen. And then the very last point here. So Z, that is 6 away, 6 down from the line. So we're going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up from the line and put a point. So Z prime. And again, if I were to map this, it's positive 1, positive 6, which is exactly what we expected to happen. So using those little mappings definitely will help. And we'll go through, I'll show you, I've shown you a few times what it looks like. If you don't have that sheet, just write it on a separate sheet of paper. Just keep your notes nice and neat, and I would put them all on one sheet of paper. All right, so I'll make another video for the next 4 questions. I hope that helped, and I will see you on the next video.